a todos and welcome back to my channel. I'm Elle Besson and today we're going to talk about how you can eat more like a Spaniard. I was going to say 10 ways, but I'm pretty sure there's more in this video. So countless ways to eat like a Spaniard because like seriously, who doesn't want to live forever? Número uno. Become a locavore. Spaniards are the original hipsters. They are unintentionally but overtly aware of their locavorism. Regardless of the size of the supermarket, here you'll be hard-pressed to find the range of international ingredients that you would in an Australian equivalent-sized supermarket. This has pros and cons. Pros, you will be lowering your greenhouse gas emissions, reducing reliance on industrialized farming, reducing the use of pesticides and fertilizers. You eat in season, which usually results in better taste in the food. And usually locavorism results in less wastage. And you help support local businesses over big international companies. Cons, you don't get to make amazing curries and Vietnamese rice paper rolls whenever you want. But at the end of the day, we should really ask ourselves, should you be eating a mango in the middle of winter? Número dos. Omega-3. Seafood is a really important part of the Spanish diet, and despite living on an island for most of my life, I've actually never had as much access to fresh, good quality and varied seafood in my life as I do right now. What you'll find in just a supermarket here, you'd actually need to make a trip to a specialty fishmonger in a good quality market like Queen Vic Market in Victoria, for example, in Australia to get. Not to mention that even in my tiny little Pueblo supermarket, they have a specially trained fishmonger in the supermarket who will ask you very, very, very specific questions on how you want your seafood prepared. And like, trust me, they're really specific. They would never ask you some of these things in Australia, which makes it doubly as hard in Spanish. Número tres, Cola Cao. If you tell me that you don't know what Cola Cao is, then you definitely don't live in Spain and you don't know many Spanish people. This stuff is like a religion here, and before any of you comment below that that stuff is only for kids, don't lie to me. I've seen it in other adults' apartments and I've heard numerous other people my age or at least 20 upwards of 40 talking about it openly. You guys love this stuff. It's like your Milo. Milo. Something that you definitely need to know about if you move to Australia. And do not trust an American on how to prepare your Milo. Please consult a real Australian. Número cuatro. Eating on the go. This is prohibited in Spain. It is a cardinal sin to eat on the run. I never see anyone do it, and I definitely never see anyone eating in their cars on their way to an appointment like we maybe might do in Australia. That's probably the reason why, what do you call them? Anti-indigestives aren't sold everywhere in Spain, where you see them in the most bizarre and random shops in Australia. Like they'll just sell them everywhere, and it's probably just because we're giving ourselves indigestion. I can't stress it enough. If you're in like the US or Australia or probably the UK, I can't really comment, you will definitely see people walking around and not just eating like a couple of nuts or something, like eating a full burger or a sandwich or something like that on their way to something else. And we consider it like a way to save time, to kind of like kill two birds with one stone. Whereas in Spain, they definitely respect mealtime a lot more, which I'd say is another reason why they're a lot healthier. In Spain, takeaway does exist, which is called para llevar, but unlike in Australia, it's not designed for you to eat while you walk. If you buy something takeaway in Spain, often, like for example, a coffee will have a lid that you can't drink through. That's because you're supposed to take that coffee to your next location, sit down, remove the lid, and then drink it. I believe that in Madrid and Barcelona, there are exceptions to this rule, and I guess that's because they're both very international cities. But everywhere else, I'd say, yeah, it's really not the done thing. And even there, I've spent a lot of time in Madrid now and quite a bit of time in Barcelona, and I still haven't seen people eating on the go. Yeah, it's not something I would even consider doing now. I would feel very weird and awkward about it. Número cinco, eating while standing. So while the Spaniards don't like to eat and walk, they have made an art of eating while standing in crowded locations. I guess this all plays back into tapas and pinchos. I have not yet mastered the art of eating while standing up, despite being able to eat on the run. But it's definitely something you need to get used to for when you're out having a drink with your friends and you want to go to the best bar, obviously, you're going to have to eat and stand up. Número 6, white asparagus. You are going to have to learn to appreciate white asparagus. It's pretty much how you know your salad is fancy AF. And do not turn your nose up at it if you're served it at someone's house. That would actually be quite insulting. White asparagus is quite expensive. I have heard that in Australia in the 80s, white asparagus was also a thing, but like many other 80s trends, it has been completely wiped from our social conscience. For better or for worse, I'm not here to judge white asparagus. Número 7, portion control. Spanish abuelitas clearly have a mental protractor, like, what do you call it? Burnt into their brains to know how to exactly portion a salad, a tortilla, really anything that is going to be shared. They're going to portion it out precisely. So if you go to a dinner, either someone will play mum and portion everything out at the start, but if not, I highly recommend that you take your portion from the start. Not more and not less like we might do in Australia, because if you're going back later, everyone's already assumed that you've taken your portion, so you either kind of look like a pig or 2, the salad is gone. And you don't want that, especially not if it's got white asparagus in it. I've actually even seen Spanish women ask the waiter for a bit of extra tortilla before so that they could perfectly portion a section for someone who had arrived late that they didn't know was coming, so that everyone had the exact equal portion of tortilla. It works. Número 8, queso. So there's 2 elements to cheese that really confused me when I first arrived in Spain. The first is, usually when you're at a restaurant, the cheese is already cut into little triangle sections of cheese instead of as a block with a knife as we would back home. And I guess this all just plays back into portion control and ease of portion control. But the second part that really confused me, which I've spoken about before, is the crackers, or lack thereof. Spaniards do not really eat cheese with crackers. They usually would just pick it up with their hand and eat it, ya está. Or with the piece of bread that is religiously served with every meal in Spain. So you can either put it on your bread or you can eat it as so. I will say that Spanish cheese is usually not as strong as, say, a French cheese, so you don't really need the cracker in the same way you might with some other cheeses. And Spanish cheese is delicious, so you should just deal with getting your hands dirty. Número 9, bean consumption. So let's just take a moment to talk about the real reason that Spain is in the blue zone, their bean and lentil consumption. The blue zone is a collection of countries whose life expectancies directly relate to their diet. They also include places like Japan and, I believe, provincial Greece, a little part of California and Costa Rica. All these places like their beans, and Spain is no exception to this rule. The consumption of beans and lentils in this country is something to marvel. And as a bean and lentil fan myself, I found the transition very, very easy. But I just wanted to let everyone out there know that if you really want to live like a Spanish abuelita, you need to up your bean intake now. The other commonly cited link between all the different blue zones is, weirdly, a beer a day. So, beans or beer? Número 10, olive oil. So, being from Melbourne, the food-obsessed capital of Australia, I kind of knew that olive oil rules kind of existed, and that Greek and Spanish olive oil were competing for top place. However, not wanting to spend my entire salary on imported olive oil, I kind of just stuck to the basics. But since moving to Spain and having access to some of the world's best olive oil at olive oil's best prices, I've learned a thing or two. There's definitely a right and wrong way to use olive oil, and there's definitely right things and wrong things to use each olive oil on. But above all else, the single most useful skill that Spain has taught me is how to put olive oil onto my tostada. Número 11. Tortilla de patatas. Or as we bastardize it in English, a Spanish omelette. We kind of do that to everything Spanish. A Spanish omelette, a Spanish affair. Could it be anything more deep to Spanish culture, or it's just Spanish? No Spanish diet would be complete without a decent intake of tortilla de patata. Unless you're Spanish or you grew up in Spain, I can assure you that you do not know what a Spanish omelette is or how to cook one. Especially if you've been watching Jamie Oliver.
Beautiful spiced cherry though.
Luckily, we have Miguel in Australia to tell us how to make it, although I've still never seen it done properly in a restaurant in Australia. This simple Spanish dish isn't as simple to make as it looks, but it is a staple in the Spanish diet, and it combines two of my favorite things, eggs and potatoes. Potatoes. Patatas. Potatoes. Patatas. At the end of the day, if I had to sum up Spanish food, I'd say that it's all held up by three pillars: quality ingredients, locally sourced, and cooked with care. Like everything is well cooked, local, and good quality. And that's kind of what makes Spanish cuisine so amazing. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe, give me a like, comment below what you liked, and I will see you all very soon. So good luck eating like a Spaniard. Hasta luego. Hey, Chapo. ¿Qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa, tío? Nada. Uf. ¿Eh?
Ready for my close-up, Mr. Dino. Cool. Good. Now you gotta cut the other knife.